Hello, welcome to the video. This is a test video to see if it works in this new setup, and I thought what better way to test it than to do a deck profile on a new deck I've been using. So we are playing a new 100 card commander deck. Now the commander and some of the cards in the deck are currently proxied, but that's just because the cards themselves haven't arrived yet. You'll see why in a sec. I hope you guys enjoy this deck profile. If you do, I might carry on doing them, you know, just as if and when I build decks. But anyway, without further ado, we have built SpongeBob. So if you don't know, SpongeBob is a reskin of Joda the Unifier, and Joda the Unifier is a one of each color 5/5 that says anytime you cast a legendary, basically, as long as you cast it from your hand, start looking from the top of your library until you hit a legendary that is a lower mana cost than the legendary you cast from your hand. You can cast that one for free. So it's basically Legendary Cascade, but only from the hand. It's actually kind of dumb. It also has the ability of all legendary creatures get +1/+1 for each other legendary creature you control. Well, for every legendary creature you control. So if I've got 10 legendary creatures out, they're all getting +10, which builds up very quickly. So the way I've built this deck profile, because I pre-do the deck ready for the profile, is I've put all the non-legendary creatures followed by legendary creatures that are in a specific way. Then we will go into other bits. So first off, let's go into the non-legendary creatures. First non-legendary we have is Delighted Halfling. It is a 1/2 for 1 mana that taps for a colorless, or taps add a colored mana, and a legendary cast with that mana cannot be countered. And I'm pretty sure it can only be used on legendaries. Yeah. So yeah. That's it for non-legendaries. Yeah, there's a lot of legendaries in this deck. So I did set myself a minor challenge, which was I had to use every SpongeBob Secret Lair card, Secret Lair creature. So these are all of the SpongeBob Secret Lair creatures. These two I don't think fit the deck very well, which is Patrick, because it is a vanilla that is 7 mana total, and it's only a 6/5. So it makes sense that you run it in this, I guess, for the mana, because you can just do that type to hit to into something better with Joda. But obviously, if I weren't doing this challenge, I wouldn't be running this at all, because there's way better legendaries. Mr. Krabs is a Charix, which is more about crabs and swapping defense and powers and whatnot, which once again doesn't really fit what this deck's doing. But then we have Plankton, that's a 1 mana, which is Skrelv, which is basically toxic and is unblockable. Well, is blockable but cannot block, but you can pay mana to make something protected from a certain color, which means if you're playing a mono player or a player that has at least 1 color among all their creatures, you can hit safely with whatever creature you want to hit them with. And then you have Sandy, that's a Toski, which is basically card draw for every hit. You've got Squidward, which is Gravilax, which is the exact same thing. Basically, if you get creatures that hit, you get to draw cards. Very nice. And then you have Gary, which is Toxrill, which is just a very toxic card, and probably shouldn't have been reprinted in the SpongeBob Secret Lair, because now it means a lot of new players are going to be playing him. So, yeah. Now we're going to go into what I call the advantage legendary. So these are legendaries that will give you like card draw, or like gain life, or ramp you mana wise. So first one we have is the good old Uro. Draw cards, play a land, gain life. Yeah, it doesn't survive unless you escape it, which you can do if you want, but it's mostly there for the first 3 abilities. And then because of the Legendary Cascade, it will Legendary Cascade for free, which is quite nice. Then we have obviously Vorinclex, the Voice of Hunger. that basically doubles your mana output and is a very big mana cost for you to once again get a nice legendary cascade off of. We then have Sakama, which will untap all of your lands. Very nice for that. Again, a big mana as well, so you can get yourself a lot of cascade for it. Then we have Morin of the Moor Song, which is basically grab your best card for the matchup every turn, and that includes your opponents, which can make the game very interesting. I do not run the opposition agent. I am tempted because, I'll be honest, my LGS does have a few decks where I'm like, I should probably have something that shuts them down instantly. But as of now, there is no opposition agent, as you can see by me only having Delighted Halflings, so only non-legendary. But it's just a nice way to ramp or get whatever you need. Then, under the same vein, we have Joyra and Areki, which have the same ability of anytime you cast a legendary, draw a card. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, Joyra is a tiny bit better because you get to do it off of a basic artifact or whatever, but you're doing a lot of legendaries. You're mostly drawing from the legendaries, so in my opinion, they're sort of equal. Reki does have the mana costs going for him. And then we have that is all of the advantage ones. I will say then we have the Legend Matters ones. So we've got Sisay Weatherlight, which will allow us to grab any legendary from our library and just plump it onto the field, and gets +1/+1 for each legendary colour. Then we have normal Captain Sisay, which will tap to add any legendary from our deck to our hand, which, yeah. Then we have the Sixth Doctor, which will copy the first legendary per turn that we cast, or if we've cast him that turn, the first legendary after his cast, which has done some silly things, I'll tell you that now. He is, I would argue, fundamental to this deck in some cases. Then, talking of Doctor Who, we have K9, because it basically gives all of my legendaries Ward 1, and has an ability to basically make something unblockable. So, once again, very nice. Basically makes it so you're guaranteed to hit with SpongeBob if you need to. Yoshimaru, every time a legendary comes out, it gains +1. And, yeah, I think that's basically all you need to say about him. He's just a good boy. Then we have Kethis. Kethis makes all your legendaries cost 1 less. Very good for when you're trying to cast stuff like Sakama. But yeah, he's just good. And then the last of the Legends legendaries, we have, I always forget how to pronounce this, Ratadrabik. Ratadrabik? Yeah. Basically, he will, if a legend dies, I will revive it as a token. That's a non-legendary. So it won't buff anything up, because I won't go, this is another legendary for SpongeBob, but it will say, okay, one of my better legendaries has died, let's get that back. Then we go into what I like to call the Exile Meta cards. So we have Prosper, so if you ever cast a card from Exile, you make a treasure token, and he will put cards in exile himself that you can cast, so just keeps the value train going. Then we have Rocco Street Chef, that basically gets everybody to play from exile, but then also gives you food every time someone does. So, I mean, it doesn't come in handy that much, the food, but it's nice to have like something that you can sack to, if someone says you have to sack a permanent, or if you need life at any point. And then we have the 13th Doctor. Weirdly, one of the better Doctors from the set. I wasn't expecting it to be that good when I first read it. I'm like, I mean, the occasional 1/1 ain't bad. It depends on how many decks cast from outside of your hand, I guess. I have the 13th Doctor in at least like 4 of my decks at this point. It is insane how good this card is without realising it. And it's basically a Seedborn Muse on everything that has a +1/+1 on it, so it's very nice. Especially since it can put +1/+1s on things itself, just from Joda triggers. Very good. Now we're just going into what I like to call legendary good stuff. So this is just the legendary creatures that just do good stuff. So like Isikia, God of the Tree, Prismatic Bridge. You're just casting, you're getting a free thing every turn, not bad. Atali, you're stealing from your opponents, and you have Infect if you need it. Coma, you get to tap things down and give him indestructibility. Avacyn gives everything indestructibility. Shalia basically gives everything like hexproof. Is it Shalia? No, Shalai, sorry. I don't know why I switched the I and the A. Anyway, but yeah, it gives everything hexproof, which is quite nice. We have a Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight. Yeah, sorry, my brain's not 100%. But basically, it's a flying first right there. Halves the damage dealt to me, doubles the damage dealt to my opponents. Very nice. Urbrass the Hidden gives everything on my board haste, gives everything on their board tapped. Karvek basically says, hey, I'm going to deal damage to any target equal to the spells you're casting, so keep that in mind. Adric, arguably one of the better cards in this deck because he's a 2 mana legendary, which makes him very easy to get off of Joda, but he also has the ability of, if I pay mana and tap him, I copy a triggered ability. Now, Joda's a triggered ability, so I can, if he's on the board and I trigger Joda by casting Avacyn, I can now cascade twice. However, my favourite use for him is if I already have the 6th Doctor out, because the 6th Doctor will copy a legendary, and then I copy that trigger because that is a triggered ability, and I create 2 copies. I had 3 Prismatic Bridge out at one point because of that. It is very dumb. Then we have Maelstrom Wanderer, which is, yeah, I mean, Cascade, and haste on everything is very nice. Now, the last legendary, and I put this separate, is because it does nothing for the deck, but it is a card that I do enjoy, and I felt like buying another copy because it's from my favourite set of the entire Magic set, and I do enjoy this card. It's one of my favourite cards from that set. So we're running Davros, creator of Daleks, or Dalek creator. Again, doesn't really do much for the deck. It creates Dalek tokens, maybe potentially card draw and card discard. I just like it. I just like it as a card, so it made the cut just for that reason. Then, now that we're done with the creatures, we're going to go into the Planeswalkers. We have Dihada. It's a legend deck. Of course you're going to run the Dihada. It just helps legendaries, but then also potentially just does like really stupid on the ultimate, which is just gain control of non-land permanents until end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste. So I just win the game if I ever get to that -11. Very stupid. And then the last legendary Planeswalker, Okothi for Crowns. I do not need to explain. Enjoy an elk. That's all I need to say. Now we're going to go into a weirder pile. So this pile is what I like to lovingly call the so this pile is the legendary non-creature legendaries. So basically it's just everything that's not a creature that is a legendary that will trigger Joda or can be grabbed from Joda. For example, a 0 mana artifact called Mox Amber that taps for mana. So if you ever cast a Yoshimaru or a Canine or Plankton while this card is out, while you have Joda out, you can still get something off of it, and it is mana. So it basically turns that 1 mana thing into 0 mana technically, because you're casting it and then immediately getting your mana back. Very nice. Then we have the Timeless Lotus, 5 mana, taps for 1 of each colours, triggers Joda, no reason to not run it. The One Ring, legendary, gives you protection, gives you card draw, enough said. Helm of the Host, legendary, makes non-legendary copies of any creature, including Joda, which means you get a ton more triggers. Very good. Hero's Podium, legendary, triggers the ability, is another Joda for the pumping effect. Very good. Black Blaze Reforged, legendary, 2 mana, gives 1 creature like +5/+6 because of how many lands you have. It's very stupid. And then Shurikai. That's it for the legendary artifacts. Because Shurikai, yes, technically is a creature, but you have to crew it, and I'll be honest, I don't think I've crewed it a single time in this deck because it's more for the card draw. It's still a good card. Then we go into the legendary sorceries with Urza's hang on, I always forget the name of it. Urza's Ruinous, I almost said Radiant. Urza's Ruinous Blast to exile everything that's not a legendary, obviously. We have Prying Evil's Glorious Rebirth, which is just a mass revival for all your legendaries. So if you get completely board wiped and you have this in hand, which with all the card draw would be kind of hard to not have, yeah. Then we have Khan's Temporal Sundering, which is a bounce spell that also gives you an extra turn, and again, because it's a legendary, you cascade off of that. It's very silly. And also because it's a legendary, you can copy it with your very lovely 6th Doctor, and then copy that trigger with your Adric, which again I've done, and oh my god, my opponents hated me for it. Then we have Vraska Joins Up. It is a 2-mana enchantment that says give a death. So as soon as it enters, give a death touch counter to a creature, and if a legendary creature deals damage to anybody, then draw a card. Very nice. And then we just have a Day of Destiny, which is a 4-mana legendaries get +2/+2. Honestly, if I ever want to add more legendary stuff, this probably gets the cut. Which I do actually want to add another Joins Up. I want to add Anya, or whatever it's called, which basically is a Panharmonicon for all of my legendary triggers. So that will probably replace this card eventually, when I do get a hold of one. Now we're going into the non-legendary cards. So this is cards that are good in the deck, but are not legendary themselves. So we have the Invasion of Fiora, which is destroy all legendaries or destroy all non-legendaries. You destroy all non-legendaries, and then when you kill it, it becomes a legendary itself, like a legendary creature, that says during each opponent's turn, during your upkeep, if you haven't dealt any damage to your opponents since your last turn, so basically if you don't burn your opponents during their turns, which this deck doesn't really do, draw a card. So it's just an additional card draw every turn. It's not bad. Then we have the ramp with Cultivate, Farseek, and Rampant Growth. I mean, just generally, in my opinion, some of the better ramp spells. Then we have Legendary Searchers in Time of Need, searches for any legendary, and Search for Glory searches for any snow, permanent, or legendary. You're searching for the legendary. Then we have Swords and Path for the removal. And then, talking of ramp, we then go Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Relic of Legends, because it taps for any colour itself, but then taps any legendary creature for any mana colour as well, which means you ramp like crazy with this spell. Then you have Patriarch Seal, which is basically again an Arcane Signet, but also has the ability of, if you pay 1 to untap any legendary creature. So say I swing with a creature that I really want to block with as well, I can untap it. If I have a creature that taps for an ability, I can do that too. It's just nice. We then have the Chromatic Lantern, so that's it for that part of the ramp. And then we have protection in the form of Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. So, you know, just good protection, good generic protection. It's protection that you probably will use in every deck that cares about a specific creature. You really want Joda to survive quite often, so I keep calling it Joda. It is SpongeBob SquarePants. It's very silly that they printed that a Joda as SpongeBob. They could have gone with any other deck, like commander that's Wooburg, or even a non-Wooburg commander that has the same theme as him, because just giving casual players Joda is so bad. Anyway, we then have our lands here, so obviously the Command Tower, the Exotic Orchard, and the Reliquary Tower. But then we also have the World Tree, because we want access to Wooburg a bit easier if we can. Plaza of Heroes, because, well, legendaries. We have a Minus of Moria, which allows you to exile cards for treasures, and it will come in untapped if you have a legendary out and is a nice red mana. So if you're going to run a basic mountain, you just swap it with the Mines of Maria because it's just arguably a better mountain for this deck. Then we have the Tri-lands of Nomad Outpost, Savage Lands, Sandstep Citadel, Crumbling Necropolis, Frontier Bruvac, Arcane Sanctum, Jungle Shrine, Mystic Monastery, Seaside Citadel, Opulent Palace. Yes, they all went to tapped, however they really help with mana fixing, so yes, you should be running them for that reason. Then we have nice dual lands in the form of Canopy Vista, Sunken Hollow, Cinder Glade, and Smouldering Marsh. Just decent cards in general. Then we have fetches in the form of a Cabaretti Courtyard, a Evolving Wilds, and a Terramorphic Expanse. Just generically good searches for this deck. And then we go into the basics of Forest, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go into Plains, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Swamps, which we have 1, 2. Islands that we have 1, 2. And a mountain that we have 1. And that's it. That's the land base. And arguably, it works pretty well. I've only really been mana screwed like a couple of times playing this deck, and I've played it a few times at this point. So, I would say the mana isn't too bad in this deck. Now, I tried to make this deck not terrible. I tried to make this deck like playable, you know. I didn't want to like make this deck horrible, but I also didn't want to make the deck like level 4, you know. I didn't want to go bracket 4. I'm going to curb stomp everybody so quickly. So I don't know if I've managed that with this, because I am definitely running a couple of cards that I'm sitting there going, yeah, that does feel a little curb stompy. But at the end of the day, it's, if I'm going against a pre-con, I'm not going to be playing this deck, let's put it that way. But it is a deck that I do enjoy playing. It is a deck that I'm surprised we got in a Secret Lair, especially the SpongeBob one, because oh my god, there was some really good reprints in there. Including the Internet Sensation pack. In the Internet Sensation pack, we're getting like a decent looking counterspell, which is going straight into my Blink deck. But we've got stuff like Inevitable Betrayal in there. We got cards like Dismember as a secret card. We got Daze as a nice counterspell. And the food token looks fucking beautiful. The food token's going in this deck. But yeah, like there are definitely some good reprints in that set. So at the end of the day, I personally think, and I'm sorry to my American audience because they're all sold out there, but this is probably one of the better Secret Lairs we've had in a while, just content-wise. Now, if you're not a fan of Universes Beyond, especially the more silly Universes Beyond like SpongeBob, but it won't be something that you enjoy. But I personally think like actual reprint value and actual cards that are usable for anybody, this has been one of the best sets we've had for a while. Like this and the Deadpool one we just got for our April Fools as well. They're actually hitting it out of the park a bit with the Secret Lairs, and I'm enjoying it. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not enjoying it fully because it means my wallet hates me, but I'm enjoying what it's doing for the game. Anyway, that small little tangent. I hope you enjoyed the SpongeBob list. I will be putting the Mox field in the description like I normally do. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.